Thank you so much for organizing this and inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here. And what I'm going to try to do today is sketch some kind of a landscape, the landscape of AI. Now, this is a field that's growing. All of you knows that. It's not a field that's already established. We know exactly what it is. It's changing all the time, and so many different actors. And what I'm showing you now is only like one point of view, and I'm trying to be as pluralistic and inclusive as possible with what I show you here. So I asked DALL-E to sketch the landscape of AI ethics, and that's the result. And to be more firm, in order to prepare this presentation, I came up with, before I made it, I made a mind map. I find that it's a tool that very much works for me. And here there's a barcode, and if you want to scan, it will lead to this handout. Some people like to follow it through the presentation. Others maybe want to look at it later. And I'll show the barcode also at the end, so don't worry about it if you missed it. So here's how I'm going to do this. First of all, I'm going to make the case that AI is something else. Then I'm going to show some questions that AI ethicists ask, just examples. I'm going to speak about a few assumptions that are very common among the public and technology developers and technology investors, but are very controversial in the landscape of AI ethics. I'm going to show you the most of the presentation will be the different approaches. That will be the most of it. And at the end, you cannot do a presentation about AI without mentioning generative AI, of course. And we'll discuss this emoji next to it. OK, so AI is fundamentally different, as you know. It is making decisions. It's going through vast amount of data, identifies patterns, drawing insights, making predictions, which leads to decisions. The other technologies do not do that. It's getting better, what we call machine learning. It's autonomous, and it's an infrastructure technology. It converges, as we like to say, with other technologies, and almost every sector is very much affected by this technology, to say it in a gentle words. So here's one typology of AI. One of many. I'd like, we say AI, but there's so many AIs. So here's a nice distinction that I like. One kind is physical, like autonomous vehicles, for example. The other one is virtual, like chatbots or Alexa or Siri. And the third kind, which I think is the most common one, is the one that we don't see. We don't interact with. All those algorithms behind the scene that control traffic, that are part of our financial world, that's the embedded ones. OK, so questions. What do AI ethicists ask? And here you can see the students or the staff of this university can recognize the vehicle. Can you be cruel to this vehicle? Is it possible to be cruel to a machine? It's a question that the answer is not that intuitive. Can machines be responsible? If not, how do we assign responsibility to those who make them, those who use them? It's very complex. How do you correctly balance between automation and control? Let's say you're riding your autonomous vehicle, and you say, stop. Does the autonomous vehicle do what you just said? And that's just like one example. What is an intimate relationship with a robot? Think about care robots. To what extent AI can be a collaborator, right? We all write with, or some of us, or many of us, write with spell checkers and chat GPTs, but collaborators can do other things than writing. And to what extent this is a collaboration and not a tool? And a question that we're going to ask more and more: how to control a system that is smarter than us? And think about the court, for example. Will we have AI judges? Under what conditions, yes, and under what conditions, no. We have to have human oversight. And from here, let's move to the assumptions. So first assumptions, the neutrality thesis that I'm happy that you discussed before. You see Aristotle with a knife, angel and devil. Of course, it's very logical and very, there's a lot of sense in saying that knife is neutral. You know, it can be used for good or bad. You know, like the guns don't kill, humans with gun kill motto. But as previously discussed before, tools, especially information technology tools, especially with AI, no longer neutral. Solutionism, the idea that problems can be fixed, solved with technology, especially if they're social problems or political problems solved with technology. The idea of technological determinism, we don't call it like this, but we see it everywhere. And basically what it says that technology develops in a certain way and we just carve it. And we need to be the one who carves what's next. But it undermines the decisions that we humans take, either alone as designers or as users or on meetings collaboratively, right? And hype narratives, blockchain, 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 AI, blockchain. And of course, some of it is great, really great, life-changing, no doubt. But the thing with hype narratives, they promise many things for the future, and they downplay potential risks. Okay, now the main part of the presentation, the different approaches to AI ethics, because it's being seen so different by different traditions. So let's speak first of all traditional ethics. Are there ethicists in this crowd or people from philosophy? Okay, great. There are. So, sorry about the next few words. The original question, as we all know, was how to live life. And now in traditional ethics in university, we discuss so many traditions, like consequentialists would say that we evaluate action by the outcomes, and utilitarian would speak about the maximum happiness, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And that's amazing to learn, and it's a really good tool, but unfortunately, and here is like a very simple headline that I randomly chose, YouTube recommended a self-harm video to children as young as 13. Nobody would even say, oh, wow, about this headline, right? But how can we analyze it in what's in a deontological tradition? Okay, what's the intention of Google? Or justice is fairness. Pretend behind the veil of ignorance that you are Google, and that's like this kind of question they don't have a lot of power, a lot of explaining power. They don't change a lot what we think about the topic or what questions to ask, at least in my view and some other people's view. But not to be completely party winner. Virtue ethics, for example, on the other hand, is flourishing when discussed AI ethics. And I think that a main cornerstone publication is this by Shannon Valor, Techno-Moral Virtues, 2016, discusses technology, not specifically AI. But the thing is how to cultivate the moral character or skill set, not only as individuals, but also as society. How can we flourish with technology? And that's very powerful these days. Another form is empirical ethics. And here I gave the most common example, the MIT autonomous car experiment, where those of you who, I assume most of you know it, but those of you who don't, it's like an experiment where the user, the one who goes to the website, chooses, and they got so so much data from there about different culture, traditions, times. So that's empirical ethics. And narrative ethics. So in this very interesting piece of work and very insightful, narrative ethics basically is understanding narratives about technology in a way that, like, technology tells stories. It has people, it has events, it has artifacts. Interesting things happen, and by understanding the narratives, we can better understand the technological practice. Now, let's get real, as we say. Policy. Long time ago, 2017, a group of smart people sitting in Montreal came up with the Montreal Declaration on Responsible AI. They understood the impact that AI is going to have, and they craft some principles. And not long after, the IEEE came up with the ethically aligned design booklet. And that was very powerful. And then afterwards, you know, the ethical guidelines for trustworthy AI and the OECD AI principles. And what happened afterwards is a cascade that every organization and every corporation, with good reasons, came up with guidelines and principles for AI ethics. So many of them that it became a research topic, meta-analysis of. And basically, to sum up the main ones, bias and discrimination, fairness and diversity, but also not only algorithms, but also the data and the HR and the employees and many other things. And obviously there's more topics to it, so it's not only these ones, and there's so many more. And if we divide the policy documents, some of them would be rights-based approach, such as UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of AI, which is very influential paper. And also the HILEG, the high-level expert group on AI from the European Union, those who wrote the draft, the guidelines, it was a rights-based approach too, and that led to the European AI Act now. But the AI Act is no longer the rights-based approach, it's now a risk-based approach, those of you who know. So that's another approach that policy papers are taking. Other that work in the field are discussing AI ethics in terms of social justice, in terms of activism, in terms of power, in terms of, and that's my small donation to the scientific, to the scholar community coming up with this. And now this is AI ethics as AI governance, and I think that this is one of the most powerful ways that AI ethics transition into practical manifestation in this field. And obviously there's AI governance on the national level, setting rules, standards, regulation, legislation, but also on the business level. There's a business case to be ethical, to develop AI ethics, to ensure clients and investors that the products would not do something. Nobody wants a headline tomorrow at the newspaper that their algorithm has done something horrible, right? But it's not only that. It's like it's an advantage of competitors, and there's so many other reasons to develop AI governance that adhere to AI ethics within the business. And there are many organizations or many things to say about that. I think I'm happy that Ryan from For Humanity is here. They work in the field of auditing, which is one aspect of AI governance. So there's that. Those were the approaches. There's more. I think those are the main ones. Generative AI. Oh, wow. And to think that it all started not that long ago, November 2022, and Amazing, just amazing. And large language models, as discussed before, are they sentient? Some people, or AI ethicists, mostly think that they are not sentient. They have nothing to do with minds. They're not the expression of thoughts, and they are not ethical reasoners. And a good question to ask is, how is this anthropomorphism harmful to society? Because it is. So if we recognize how, we can develop better products. Now, generative AI is literally beyond words, right? Images, videos, voices, music. By the way, I love making music with AI. I send songs to others for their birthdays, and I apologize to my partner with song. It's amazing. but so does drug discovery. So it's mind-blowing, it's amazing, but the thing is, so much, and we say democratize AI, right? But we often give people tools that are half-baked, that are harmful. How do we deal with all this emerging technology? How do we do that? And exploitations of digital workers, right? Data labelers at the Global South. How do we finish with this? No more exploitation. Concentration of AI industry, it becomes, like, especially the cloud and the cheap sectors, and it becomes like so complex with geopolitics involved, and Taiwan this, and China that, and US this, and unbelievable complex. And you cannot have a presentation that says generative AI without saying hallucinations, right? So errors, let's say errors. This is an example of a book that was an example for a trend of books about collecting mushrooms that were used ChatGPT, and that didn't end up well. Deep fakes for going to affect us, apparently, but not only in politics, right? Pornography, business blackmails, identity thefts, and this is something from last week. I don't know if those of you who haven't seen it, I'll say it briefly. A video meeting with a CTO, $25 million. Everyone but the person who was scammed were deep fakes in a video meeting. Amazing. And of course, recent news, Taylor Swift. It's not only for celebrities. Unfortunately, it's going to be on politicians, on business leaders, and think about high school kids. It's terrible. It's unbelievable, and the questions that arise are endless. So there's many societal issues, and we speak about narratives. Now we are already in a level that narratives set the tone for wars around the world. It's a narrative wars. Wars are not only in the battleground, they are also fought with narratives online. And the current state of affairs is that AI can recognize narratives automatically, and automatically come up with counter-narratives, and build websites, and provide news articles, everything automatically generated, and social media posts, and leads, and the ability to personalize the manipulation and send it directly to the target. And in fact, it was recognized by the World Economic Forum as the #1 risk, which I definitely agree. And there's so many topics that we haven't even discussed with generative AI. These topics existed way before, right? But with generative AI, it seems that it opens a whole new set of social issues to us. So just to put it one next to another, and the mind map that helped me create this presentation, and that's it.
All right, thank you, Ori. Questions for the ethicist? Okay, let's see.
Great. Thank you. Wonderful talk. I agreed with 98% of it. And I would say the only thing I caught was that anthropomorphism is bad in many respects. But quick question. If we have an AI that 2% of the population does not think is intelligent, either in a human sense or an alien sense, does not think is compassionate, does not think is sentient, but 98% of the population does, maybe because of misplaced anthropomorphism, how do we treat that AI? And do we model cruelty if we treat it badly?
So thank you. Several points to make. First of all, I would never call myself an AI ethicist. I studied this. But thank you. Anthropomorphism is something that we humans cannot avoid. We do it all the time. We see it with kids using dolls. We see it with adults speaking to their cars. It's part of who we are. It's part of the human nature, and it's good that we do that. And it's also good that we do it with some technologies. But the thing is that when it comes to AI, and AI that pretends to have a personality, this technology can be used and is used for manipulation. Now, manipulation can be obviously good, but can also be harmful. So it all depends on the specifics. And I don't think that there's a general answer that says this is good or this is bad. Everything needs to be, I'm a particularist, let's call it in the ethical terms. I'm particularist, so we need to have it a case-by-case judgment to say that. And I know it's a disappointing answer, but that's the best that I can provide.
Thank you for this really informative presentation. I really like it. My question is about the ethics principles and guidelines you mentioned earlier. I was wondering whether you have any comment on how these ethics statements, principles, or even standards, how they are being used to inform, if and how they are being informed to inform research and development. And so that's my question. How they are being used, basically.
Well, so it's much more than I know. So to make the case short, to make the answer short, they were so much popularized that I think now no one can develop anything without thinking the word bias. There's no one developing AI in this world that doesn't have the word bias or discrimination, and of course not with larger companies that well know. Now have responsible AI chief officers and positions like this. So it's being taken very seriously because, first of all, because the products would be very bad if it's not taken seriously. So this is in terms of development, and in terms of research, I know, or I hope that these kind of things that were so much discussed will drip down to the many fields that deal with AI ethics, and some of it have drilled very deep to scholar fields.
Sorry. Great talk, thank you. My question would be on, we see the negativity about the AI and the ethics. There is a reason why we need ethics and in all of these rules. How are you bringing, or how are you managing not stifling innovation while you're designing these ethical rules? The person who's designing it, even if you give us ethical set of guidelines, that's not how new systems develop, right? You cannot innovate when there are set rules and regulations. You need to be creative to do. So how do you educate that kind of a workforce, especially how flexible some of these ethical guidelines should be, you think?
That's a good question. Thank you so much for this. So the first thing that we do is we throw away the assumption that regulation stalls innovation.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. This assumption is proved to be wrong. The right regulation, or regulation that's done correctly, with events like this, by the way, would make innovation so much more productive, so much more grounded, so much more stronger. And this collaboration is proving time and time again to be a success. So that's the first thing, and I won't say beyond that.
Hi, you mentioned this sort of quickly, but I'm curious where you fall along the rights-based versus risk-based approach to governance.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no way that I can actively shape these things that close at the higher levels. Yeah, I do follow. I find it tremendously interesting to see how legislators do, especially the European Union, because they set the tone with the Brussels effect. And yeah, we have to follow that, because that's the next step of what's happening elsewhere.
Alrighty, so that is it for Dr. Freiman.